So in this video I'm going to show you how to use Photoshop's camera raw filter to just make some subtle edits to your image, and I'm then going to show you how to create a screenshot of that so that you can use that alongside your annotations and your artist research to show how you've made those edits in your pictures. And in your camera raw filter you will have the before and after. So in Photoshop you would have uploaded your image, and I've got here my picture here of Bruno. Then you run along the top and then you'll find filter, which is between select and 3D, and you click on filter and then you click on camera raw filter, and this is how it appears. Now there are different ways that you can view your image, your before and after cycle. Now this is a really useful tool because it shows a visual image of how you've made those edits to your picture, and it also records the edits that you've done here. So you've got different formats, but for now I think this is fine. There's lots of different ways that you can show your picture as well if you want it. If it's a landscape, it will show it as a landscape. Okay, so you literally just click on the before and after, and now when I make those changes it just affects the after picture. So this picture here with Bruno, if we have a look here, so I took the picture and you can see the sun shining in his face, so we could take the temperature down slightly so it's not quite so warm, and it is all about just making subtle changes. Now we could up the contrast, so that's making the blacks more solid, you can see that, or we reduce the contrast, it makes it slightly more sort of grey and slightly washed out, but I'm going to increase the contrast. Highlights, again, you can make those white areas lighter, or you can pull in more detail in the highlights. So see around here, that's far too dark. If anything, we could probably afford just to lift it slightly. The shadows as well, you can pull out the detail. Now you can see here in the coat here, there's a lot more detail, or you could go the opposite and now it's almost solid black there. So I tend to just pull out a little bit of detail like so. You can use the whites and blacks. I don't tend to change those. Now you've got texture as well, so you can increase the texture. Now this is where you might, I think we've gone in a little bit too far there. We can change your zooming in. Here we are, so I've just changed that here. So I can increase the texture, and you can see here it starts to show a lot more of the detail of his stubble. So again, just subtle changes. And the clarity as well can create a lot more mood in a picture. You can see there. So again, you may just want to just add a little bit of clarity. You can also use dehaze, which basically makes these areas much more sort of contrasty, or you can give it that sort of softer glow, which is something that a lot of those magazines would use. So we could just put a little bit of dehaze. You've also got the vibrance here. Now if I start to increase that, you can see the yellow there of the sun, or you can take it out completely and then it starts to get so it's not so strong with the colour. So let's pull out again, so we can go fit in view, and now we can see there's quite a difference already with the picture. The saturation, again, look, that's really bright. So you might want to give it that sort of more moody, contrasty black and white with a little touch of colour, like so. And then you've got your edits there, so let's go to about there. You can also, if you want to, you can maybe make the portrait slightly brighter, maybe add a bit more contrast. And now we can really see done it again. let's go to 12. And you can really see the difference there. There's a lot more sort of mood within the picture. I love the texture and the surface of his face. So just a lot more characterful. And when you're happy with what you've done there, then you can increase this here. This is also worth remembering. You will need to include your camera settings. So here it records your camera settings. So the ISO that I was shooting on was 200. I used my 50mm lens. The aperture was set at f2.8. That's why you've got this lovely shallow depth of field. You can see it's almost dropping out in focus just here, the back of the head as well as clearly with this brick wall. And then the shutter speed was a fairly fast shutter speed because the aperture is very wide. So you've got that there, and then all I would like you then to do is to take a screenshot. So you've got a recording of how that looks. Now, to do this in a Mac, you press Shift Command 4, and now you can see this. You can see this little kind of target symbol, and now I just literally use my mouse to plot the area. So I've got my finger on the left hand side, and then the right hand side I use to drag across, and then it takes a photo. And you can hear it take the photo, and there's the little symbol that it's taken the photo. It's really, really important that you do this, because this is a way of showing the changes that you've made in your pictures. I want you to write some annotations, but there's nothing better than to actually visually represent how you've made those changes. So that is how you take a screenshot to show your before and after, and how you use Camera Raw really subtly. There are other settings within Camera Raw, but for now I think it's best just to keep it nice and simple. And then you've got other settings along here as well. And when you're happy with that and you want to commit those changes, you press OK. And there's your edited image, like so. And we can see that. And then another tool I tend to go into is I would then probably go into Sharpen, Unsharp Mask, and then just increase the focus as well. And you've got the preview, and you can just see it just pulls contrast in. There you are, you can see. I'd never go to 100, even 70 is quite high. I might go between 60 and 70%. When I'm happy with that, I will say OK. Another useful tool, if you've got any blemishes or anything that you want to take out, you can go into this, the clone stamp tool, and say this little mole here I might want to take out. I press Alt and I keep my finger down on the mouse mat, and you can see that target symbol, and then I've taken a sample of this area, you can see it, and then I just pop that over the top. And wherever that white cross is, that's the area that it's sampling. So we could go here, Alt, and then we could just do a little bit there. Okay, so it's a simple way to just make those changes in your picture. So we've got this little mole here, click there and there. And then if you decide you don't like what you've done, you can go back in history for any of those, like so. Okay, you can take it all the way back, and then it will just, then you can just carry on making those edits. So this symbol here is history, and you can see the amount of different stages you can go backwards, which is a really helpful tool. So those are some of the really simple ways to edit your image. There are plenty of other things you can do. Another quick tool that you might want to use is the colour balance as well. And a colour balance allows you to basically just make changes. So you've got the different balance tones here. So mid-tones, if I put the green in, it's taken the magenta out. So that's gone too green. If I take the green out, it's beginning to go magenta. So it's all about little subtleties when you're using the colour balance. And the best way to make sure you get the right colour balance is by using the white balance. And you see here I can add the red or I can add the cyan. And you can just literally, you can type the number in or just reduce it. You've got the preview here, before and after. And if you decide you don't want any of those, then you can just press 0. You've got the highlight tones, so I can add more yellow, add more blue. So if you add blue, you take the yellow out. If you add yellow, you take the blue out. So whatever's opposite, so magenta is the opposite to green, then put magenta in, it takes green out. You put cyan in, this bluey green, you take the red out, or vice versa. And you can also do the same in the shadow areas. So in the shadows you get more of a red or more of a cyan colour. So it's really about subtle changes that you can make, okay? But I'm happy with what we've done there. I'll close that, and there we go. And the next stage, I'm going to show you what you need to do on your screenshot page, what's expected to be included, and how to sort of support you with your annotations so you have a clear idea of what you need to write.